West Tigers faithful, back with you for another week. This is episode number 62. I'm Jared Reedie. It's probably worth putting that because, as some of you may see, Joe McCourty's not with us this evening's episode. In his place is none other than my father, one Clayton Reedie. Hi, Dad.
Hey mate, how you going? G'day everyone. Great to be back. Did a potty, I think, in the off season some time ago, but nice to be back on screen with you, mate.
Good to have you. Very much appreciate your time and your support and some of your work in the background, which we'll have some news on in a couple of weeks. Just a real reminder, straightforward, to like, subscribe, comment, share, follow us on all social media. We are going gangbusters in a couple of different places at the moment, but as usual, I'm going to give you the spiel. You can go and find the Discord in all of our pinned posts across our social media. Come and join up and join the fun. I promise we're a lot less robotic on there than we are on here. Facebook, Instagram and the like. Hit the bell on YouTube, hit the bell on Spotify, Apple, etc. We love interacting with you guys and we very much enjoy it. And there's a lot coming, some of it good, some not so good, depending on how you look at it. But we're very, very excited about what we're doing. Something that has really sort of taken people by surprise recently has been probably the criticism of one Mussy Makasini. I segued this way because one, it is tied to the fact that we had a really, really well engaged with post across Instagram and Facebook, basically reminding a lot of people that Mussy is a kid. You know, he's an 18-year-old, very young man. And will be 19 in July, speaking to how young he is. And look, obviously we'll get the team news later and we'll talk about Mussy's exclusion and realistically there's an injury there. And first grade's really tough, but I just want to talk about the game of life a little bit and the fact that I think all of us at 18 years old were not the finished product. And I'm sure that you can attest to that, Dad, more than anyone else, that I certainly was not. As a father of young men and obviously having the connection to a lot of kids that come from the Southwest from an array of backgrounds, including the Pacific Islands like Mussy and his Tongan heritage, how hard must it be for a young kid like that to have heard that sort of criticism and sort of be thrust into the spotlight in that manner and have, a lot of negative comments around him?
It'd be really difficult. It'd be really difficult for him. And a lot of it was unfair. And there's been a lot of Tigers podcasts on this week where people have dedicated time to this very topic because it's such a difficult one for this kid. You know, it wasn't that long ago that we all saw the fantastic footage of his family being there when Benji awarded him his NRL debut, which he did against the Gold Coast, and just how exciting that was for him. And I guess the importance is for Makasini, and no doubt you said yourself, we'll get to the team news, but around the non-selection for this weekend, it's about the supports that he's got around him. And I noticed that a few of the more senior Tigers players, including I think both Mays, came out and spoke against some of those negative comments that were out there. We're a big fan base. We're a passionate fan base. A lot of us are still suffering, as long-suffering Tigers fans, we're still suffering PTSD, past Tigers stress disorder. And it's really easy if we do fall over or if mistakes made, all of that, that footballing trauma comes back to us. But that's no excuse for some of the rubbish that we've seen and some of the rubbish that's been served up around this kid. But I'm really confident he's got great family around him, first and foremost. You can actually see that. You can see the support and how humble they are, how humble he is. And it was only this time last year he was doing his, in his HSC year. Yep. But he's clearly got fantastic support from Benji down, including every single member of that coaching team, including all of our senior players and the team itself. So it's about finding that balance and Hamasi learning the life lesson that we all need to learn from time to time when we read things about us, whether it be social media comments or anything else that comes our way in our personal and professional life, is just having that ability to switch off and to just shut that stuff down, because he's a kid with an absolutely brilliant future and we want to make sure that he gets the support and that he gets the coaching and that he gets the direction that he needs to realise that potential. And I think he's got the coaching staff, including a head coach, who can help him achieve that, regardless of what's been said in the last 7 days.
Absolutely. I think that there's no better bloke in his corner than Benji Marshall, realistically. He was a young upstart himself, and there was a lot of things said about Benji in his time when he was younger. Having to defend on the wing to manage that shoulder, and obviously, we won the comp in '05, but a lot of chat around him being soft or injury prone or costing us games with low percentage plays and these sorts of things. So that can only stand to help here, Mussy, can't it? Right? Like realistically, there's no better bloke.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It helps if you can walk the walk. And I think that's why Benji has been such a successful coach. When you have a look at it this year in particular, and the players that he's attracted in past years. Terrell May has come out and said if Benji's not there, he wouldn't be at the Tigers. And it's his ability to man manage and to manage relationships. He's an intelligent person. He's successful at anything that he turns his hand to. He won Celebrity Apprentice a few years ago, for goodness sake. It's an it's an emotional intelligence and an emotional maturity that in a lot of ways you've either got it or you don't. And he's got it. And he's got that ability to bring players together and to manage them exceptionally well, regardless of whether they're like Appy, who's been playing for whatever it is, 15 years or something, whatever Appy's doing, or whether it's a junior pathway kid coming through, or whether it's someone like Macassini, who's just making his way in the very, very tough world of NRL. And the balance of his performances have been absolutely exceptional. And I'm sure he's being reminded of that too.
Without a doubt. Let's talk about performances in a team perspective. We have to talk about it. We review and preview everything, and that includes these losses. Obviously, a 21 loss to the Broncos. I've tried not to look at the stats all week, but I think they really paint the picture, and it's a very, very similar predicament we found ourselves in against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. We ran for 400 more meters. We had 2 additional low breaks, 6 to their 4. We broke 8 more tackles. Our average distance was an additional 5 meters per set. We were quicker on play the balls. We had 17 offloads to 4. Speaking to the opportunities we created around second phase, Seager's baller's exceptional try. But also there are other stats that tell the story in the sense of, 653 kicking meters for the Broncos compared to, 476. They completed higher than us, not by much, but sometimes that can be the difference. See Jerome Luai's error in the red zone, But for mine, and you're free to disagree with me, but realistically for me, the game played out exactly how it looked on paper. Brisbane had their edges intact, their right and left edges intact, the same ones that played first Sunday in November last year. Their middle was depleted, and we dominated their middle. Even I would argue, even when Payne was on, and we had the lion's share of possession, because this is the type of football that we played. We dominate teams through the middle. We're able to create momentum, which then creates 6 agains, and then off the back of that, we're able to increase our levels of possession, run meters, you name it. The difference was nailing key moments. Brisbane nailed every single one of their key moments. Even a field goal taken 9 minutes before full time, which proved to be the difference. And the Tigers failed to do so. Am I right in that summation? How do you sum up that performance?
Yeah, absolutely. You've nailed it. There is absolutely nothing to disagree with. And it's one of those ones where we feel like it's like the South game, the one that got away.
Yeah.
The game, in a lot of ways, the game was there for the taking, and we couldn't ice our moments. And that's also created a lot of debate, particularly around the halves. And I know that we'll go into that when we get into the team news. It's a really tough one because virtually every stat, was seen as the better side, except for the stat that counted. And that's the one on the scoreboard. Reynolds was the difference. He always seems to have a brilliant game against us. I even remember last year when we were playing the Broncos when they did have a full-strength team and we were playing them up there in Brisbane. We did some exceptional things in that first half, and then he did the kick over the top, the kick and chase, and when he saw that Buller was standing up in the line, and that was enough to take them into the lead at half-time. He always seems to have something for us. And you're spot on. He took those moments and was smart enough to create moments when you look at that kick over the top that was taken on the full that led to that try as well. And we didn't take our moments. We created the platform, and that speaks to the brilliant work in terms of high standards and how much better we are when it comes to attack and defence in terms of getting up the field and keeping them there, I mean. but we had opportunities to at least, if not win it, at least draw and put us in a position similar to Parramatta that would have put us back on even keel in that last 5 minutes. And for whatever reason, we didn't take that. Benji will go over the video and he'll unpack that with the team. But you've absolutely nailed it. The good thing is that even though they were a depleted side, they still had an outstanding team. They were up for that game. They really were up for that game. They would have circled that at the beginning of the season as one they would have wanted to win. And they just did enough to get their nose in front. They were good enough to hold on to it. And as I said, we'll see it as the one that got away, even though it was only a 1-point loss.
Yeah, certainly. I think a lot of people have been deconstructing it a fair bit in terms of looking at attacking shapes and whatnot. I think the system holds up pretty good. There's been sort of worries around, whether it's speed or depth of the attack and those sorts of things. We speak about moments, and in moments you need to make decisions, and I think our decisions were off. I think they're getting to the right spots on the field and their timings are decent, and I even think that they're doing the fundamentals pretty well. Like Adam Dewey, I am not necessarily pro Dewey at 7, and I'm thinking, looking at this team list that we've for us to play against Canberra, he will get time at 13. I think that's inevitable, but still playing fast, square, and deep into the line. I saw a couple of moments where he was that first layer of attack where, we haven't seen that for a couple of weeks. And I thought he did it okay, but they're taking the wrong options, or the opposition's getting up quick and startling them. I think that Brisbane would have looked at the South game and looked at what Jack Wyden did and to a lesser extent Latrell Mitchell and went, well, that's the blueprint. That's how you do it. But there was, a couple of moments. So AD turns back inside and runs the footy when there was a 3-on-2. Jerome Luai kicks the ball dead. He's cognizant of the fact that this defense is getting up quick, so I'm going to put it in behind so that way, at the very least, we can see, we gain a repeat set, and then we begin to turn the screws a little bit, and we put them in 2 minds. But that ball goes dead, and that's a bit of a pressure reliever, and he got that one wrong. And then obviously the field goal set, or the lack thereof. Jock not turning it forward inside on play 4. Instead, we go block for block, and then obviously he's bundled over the sideline. It's just failing to get those moments right. Like, are you seeing similar? Like, the system's holding up, it's realistically just down to the option that we're taking? Is that fair game? Do you think that there needs to be?
Yeah, it is. No. I think, look, and I was, at least for the time being, I was one of these people who was pro leaving the halves as they were with AD and Louis. Jerome Luai, sorry, and I think that what you've said is absolutely right. We could pull back through that video and we could say this point, this point, this point, this point. We could have done A, B, C, D, and E, where we did W, X, Y, and Z, and that's what cost us the game. That's why they have those feedback sessions. That's why the team is still coming together. It's easy to forget that Luai had his absolute best game for us before he got injured against South, and that was against the Cowboys, and we were there at Leichhardt Oval, and we saw that. He was absolutely exceptional. He's been off for a little while, and this might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but I think Jerome needs to be a little bit more selfish in his play. He will often hand it off. We saw it last year when he was working with the number 7, he who shall not be named. He was taking a back seat all of the time. And similar to Appy needing to be a little bit more selfish, because that forward dominance, Appy is absolutely outstanding when he plays off the back of that, and we've seen that in the past. But what you've said absolutely sums it up. I think we will see a better Jerome Luai this week in this coming game. I think he's had an opportunity to get those miles back in his legs. He'll be good for the run. I was disappointed with his kick that went short. For you said it was a pressure release opportunity for the Broncos. But one of the things that Jerome does really well is his short kicking game, and he will be really disappointed with that. And I think he will be better for the run. And I think that we'll see a better result, both on the scoreboard and from the team overall, plus some of those individual performances this Thursday night.
I tend to agree on Luai. Look, he had a shocker. Like there is no sugarcoating it, and whether or not you put it down to cobwebs or his combination with AD or us changing up the halves pairing, whatever you call it, there's no two ways around it. He didn't play up to standard. I I want to know. Obviously, you say that he needs to be selfish, and I tend to agree. Realistically, when he wants the ball and he sees something and there's a cue or there's an opportunity down a short side, he absolutely needs to take that. Right. My issue with Jerome a little bit is the prancing. For the last couple of weeks, we've seen this block for block shape where we'll feign to turn players inside, and then and then we sort of play out the back, and we've created overlaps from these really basic fundamentals. And then, our second layer of attack, which quite often is Adam Dewey, and in other ways it's Jerome Buller, they will pin it, right? And instead, I'm sort of seeing Jerome bob around. And I know that it's something that he's done forever. Is it more like I don't know, is that him seeing something and thinking, okay, it's not really on, so I'm going to have to ad-lib it a little bit? Or are you like me as well, just like stop dancing around and just pin it and see if you can find something? Like where do you sort of sit on it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw how effective he can be. Look, I know it was only a trial, but the perfect example of that was in that trial against Penrith, where he stood up Nathan Cleary and then went through the line and passed off to Tiny, who got it to Hamasi, who scored that try that everybody was raving about. That is the perfect example of when he sees something there, but there's still a strategy to how he exploits it. And I think that that's a real key for him. The other thing too that goes underappreciated is how good his defence can be. And I don't want to turn this into a Jock Madden versus Jerome Luai conversation, but I was having a look at some stats that talked about the number of tries, the number of line breaks that were made down that left side, our left-hand side, when Jerome wasn't there. And so that opportunity that he has to work really well with Sammy on, who's he got? Sammy on his right, and he's got Tiny on his left. To work with both of those guys in and out, I think can't be underestimated either. And so whilst we're pretty quick to say, well, he could have scored here, he could have set this person up here, he could have made a long break here, it's easy to overlook just how good he is in defence, because he's not only a strong defender, he makes those outside him better defenders as well in terms of that structure that can only be good for the team too.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, look, I'm still getting nightmares around Jai Gray skinning him twice, but in saying that, they were more rare occurrences. And for the most part, I do agree with you objectively.
Yeah.
Individual performances, we've actually got a sponsor this week, the Bookie Concierge Player of the Week. You would have seen us call him out on our social media. It is none other than the Timu Terminator, Terrell May. Since reducing his minutes this year, Benji Marshall, you've seen Terrell go to another level. He played 64 minutes on the weekend. He had 23 runs for 236 metres. I cannot begin to tell you, for a man in the front row of that size and stature to carry the ball for at least 10 metres per run, it is simply phenomenal. 2 line breaks. It reads like Brian Toto's stat sheet. He had 7 tackle breaks. And made 34 tackles for 1 missed and 1 ineffective. I thought he was brilliant. And realistically, he's leading from the front and being that alpha dog that, we wanted for so long. I think that these extra 15 minutes just to give him the breather that he deserves is, really helping him. I think his leadership skills are really coming into the fore, and we're going to war with Alex Twal beside him. It's a really good time at the moment to be a Tiger supporter because of this middle and the platform that they're laying and the work that they're doing, and seeing Terrell evolve into this enforcer right before our eyes is phenomenal. So congratulations to Terrell. He is our Bookie Concierge Player of the Week. Who did you caught your eye, beyond Terrell? Who's somebody that you, or some people that you were impressed with?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll jump to a couple of extras in a moment, but just one last word on Terrell May. He seems to be getting better as the year goes on, which is actually great, because I think that last year, because of that forward burden that he was carrying, some of his performances by his high standards started to tail off a little bit towards the end of last year. And no criticism, he was carrying our pack on his shoulders, and he's got a lot more guys that are helping him. He's getting those breaks that you've talked about, and I think he will get stronger. There's no doubt that game against the Broncos was his best game, and he's getting better each week, which is brilliant. Look, the other two that I thought were outstanding was I thought Abby was absolutely brilliant, not only in attack and what he creates for us, but in defence and just what he means to that team in terms of connection, in terms of spirit, in terms of leadership, in terms of being a senior player. Absolutely brilliant in what he did, and he is having a year to remember. He's absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, the other guy that I'd like to call, look, there's a few special mentions, but I love what Jareem Buller did. I thought he was outstanding. I was a little bit worried when he had that shoulder injury that he was either going to come off or he may not have been right for this week, because he is getting better all of the time as well, and his play was absolutely outstanding. And if I could throw in another special mention, I got to mention Sam Fino. Benji reckons he's got the best hands in the club, and you can see why. He's just absolutely outstanding, and he's in the form of his life. And aren't they working brilliant individually, but as a collective unit, that forward pack? So to answer your question, Terrell was brilliant, as you've called out. Appy Buller, special mention, semi-final as well.
Yeah, Sammy would have gotten my 2 points in a 3-2-1, hypothetically. 2 try assists from a guy that is, again, similar to Terrell, is evolving before our eyes. He's a kick target. He's a whole runner now, but he's also a guy where, Jerome saw an opportunity to play short, and as opposed to him sort of going outside shoulder, he comes back in on the inside and finds Uppy Coruscant backing up through the middle. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he did some really, really good things defensively down that left edge and held his own there. He is just growing by the week. I sort of believed for a little while that he was probably still 12 months off Origin conversations. The only thing holding him back is that he wears a gold jersey. If he wore a tricolored jersey, he would already have his name on the team sheet. I think he's a phenomenal footballer and somebody who's going to captain this club in years to come. Look, Dad, it's probably worth, sort of some takeaways and some things to sort of look from and learn from, like the boys at WLD. I guess for mine, the Premiers are still the Premiers. Adam Reynolds is still Adam Reynolds when he plays us. And realistically, you do learn a lot from these losses. Realistically, it did come down to a few moments. And despite how in control and dominant we were, it can take just one moment to kill momentum and it can fall out. And I think that's, unfortunately, you don't want to lose ever. But sometimes they're the losses that you need to have to build this group. And it's worth reminding people that we have, on average age last week, we have the 3rd youngest squad in the league, and they went within a whisker of the Premiers. I know they had a few players out, and obviously Payne came off injured, but, realistically, their edges were still intact. This is one where the bounce back's going to be really important to see, how they respond. But for mine, it was a lesson that this squad certainly needed.
It is, and with the lessons are both sides of the coin. There's what can we do differently, what can we do better, and we've kind of discussed that in terms of taking those moments and how to, if not close out a game. I don't know if that's in our DNA, but continuing to attack and to take our options when they present themselves. That's a no-brainer. We've talked about that. But the other side of the coin is what we don't change, and we don't change something that's working. And so the high standards that Benji has set, that they talk about, that, anybody can talk high standards, but unless you have the structure, the systems, the resources in the players and the coaching staff to support our team to get to those high standards, it's just window dressing. They're just words on a page. And so when you have a think about the stuff that is working for us, that will be the foundation upon our wins. And, those foundations are that outstanding defence that's happening individually, but it's also happening collectively. Our forwards are absolutely pounding teams. And we've talked about this offline. It is not coincidence that we are belting teams and there are injuries that are coming out of Tigers games. The injury to the Parramatta Eels was a psychological injury, and then they got tailed up by 50 points in the next game they played against a team that's been sitting in the cellar, for all of this year in the Gold Coast. We don't change that kick chase. We don't change the line speed. We don't change the fact that we are attacking with our defence. And part of the reason why we are doing so well and our for and against is so well. Look, it's an old cliche to say we're attacking with our defence. I'll take a leaf out of anti-Benji Marshall, we are a different team to last year, so I don't want to talk about it. But you look at last year, were struggling to come off our line. So as a result, we had teams who were beginning their attack on their 40-metre line and their the halfway line. So they were always in a position 5 tackles up the road to put in attacking plays against us. That is not happening this year. And so as a result, because our defence is so good, we are restricting teams' attacks, which means when it's our turn to attack again, we are in a much better position to be able to do that. So in terms of the takeaways, in terms of looking at what we do well and what we need to improve, it is that double-edged sword. You don't want to fix one problem and create another. You don't want to focus on, issue A and then have an unintended consequence that we lose some of that line speed or we lose some of that high fitness, high, profile defense and kick chase play that we've, done really well this year. And so it's about finding that balance. And I think that'll be what the focus of this, the training and the coaching sessions, the video sessions this week will be.
Completely agree. Well said. Talking about things in terms of improvement, we were actually in the Discord, join up if you haven't already, asking a lot of people that were in there, how do we go from being good? And I think it's fair to say that we are good to great. So this was the question that we asked. So when a side gets to the stage of being good, it can sometimes be less clear how they can improve. But good sides don't stop trying to get better. They still bring in outside signings over the top. They still change things. They try and find the edge wherever they can. We were keen on to get everyone's opinion on 3 areas that they felt the Tigers needed improvement on and how they would go about tackling it. So we were curious for opinions on whether it was, going to market for players externally or, whether or not you'd look for job doers or youth or whether it was something else entirely. So the 3 that sort of came up, and Dad, I know I'm going to ask you to give me your 3 in the moment, but the biggest 3 for us were red zone attack, the halves combination, and outside back depth and sort of edge defense. So to run you through what we had. So on red zone attack, that was easily the most common answer we had by a mile. So Samuela Fainu, Fan Club or SFFC, Simon Ilias, Ghetto, AJ and Sione Chicken Wings all said the same thing, that we are generating quick play the balls, the spine's a bit disorganised and we're lacking someone who straightens the line and forces defenders to commit. So Ghetto, the great man, he made a really good point about fighting for extra yards close to the line and, how in a lot of ways that's counterproductive for good defensive teams and they set their line when you're wrestling in the tackle. But again, it seems to be a hot button issue amongst certainly our listeners and Tigers fans on a wider sort of sample size that, realistically that our red zone attack isn't cutting the mustard. And the stats do back that up, I will say. The halves combination is part of, obviously, those structures, but it was something that was called out pretty clearly. So that there's a lot of disorganisation and that people are keen to change it up. And after 3 straight wins, with Jock at 7 and Adam at 6 and the body of work that they served up and then what Jerome served up on the weekend, I understand. I don't necessarily agree, but I do understand. Additionally, what AD and Jerome have done and what they've served up, you see opposition edges, particularly South, not so much Brisbane, but they did slide off. And that was something that Chicken Wings mentioned. Hawko, another OG, his framing was good here. He sort of identified Latu and Jock as the set moving forward with AD playing another role and was in, he's pretty high on Javon Andrews and thinks that he should probably be first drop. The last one, realistically, was outside back depth and sort of edge defense. So we've obviously been forced into a lot of changes. There's been a couple of different guys. Obviously, Tavana made his debut. We've had Luke Lauli play a handful of games. Jarrell Skelton's come in and out of the side. So there's been a lot of chopping and changing. Devon, who's been with us since day one, he sort of believed that, there has been some shaky edge defense, particularly on that left when we had Makasini and Lauli paired together. Him and Party Mate both flagged the left edge we're still needing time to gel around Taylor and Hiamusi before obviously he's been rested this week. But most people do think it'll get better naturally with more reps. But, if it doesn't, then you're kind of forced to go to market. I'll throw to you now, Dad. Like, have you done your homework on this? Do you have sort of 3 there that are worth mentioning, of things you think that can take us from good to great?
Yeah, look, I guess, by way of preface, good to great is that's the holy grail of any sport. That's what every sport is chasing all of the time. Getting to good is about growth. Getting to great is about refinement, resilience, relentless consistency. Because when you play at the NRL level, regardless of the team, they're all good. Any team can beat any team on their day if you are not ready, and we've seen that with some of the topsy-turvy results that we've seen already. Look, explain that Bulldogs versus Penrith game to me, and then explain the Parramatta versus Bulldogs game. Like, seriously, if they were greyhounds, you'd have them swabbed. And so it's, getting to good. I won't say it's easy, but that's where the low-hanging fruit is. Cooper Cronk once spoke about how you can rocket up the ladder by getting your fitness up, having a great kick chase, and fixing your defensive systems. He said that'll rocket you up the ladder, but it'll only take you so far. That'll get you to good, but how do you get to great? And I think that's it's a great question to ask. I think the 3 areas that were identified are absolutely spot on. You look at some of those long-range tries, clearly it's not our, out of red zone attack that needs work. It's brilliant. It is that red zone attack. And regardless of your half pairings and how you feel about that or what side of that fence you're sitting on, I do believe that will get better as the team comes together. That's part of that relentless consistency. That's about that refinement. That's about that resilience. That if something doesn't go well, we stick together as a team, we reload the gun and we fire again. And I think that we will get better there. That leads to that conversation around the halves. And I agree with the outside backs as well. I'm not convinced. I think our left side is great. And when you look at, bringing Macassini back in, whenever that does happen, and he fills that wing spot, that's reasonably settled. Taylor May's absolutely outstanding and we've got no issue there. A little bit concerned about the right centre. We've tried a couple of different options there, even moving Taruva off the wing and putting him there as well. And he did a good job, but he's not a centre. That is literally weakening one position to strengthen another. So I'm glad he's, back on the wing when he was there. I know that Herbert had a great game at Campbelltown against the Knights there, but there's still some question marks over some of his options in defence that he's taking. And Starford Toa, he can be frustrating. I have seen him have some games where he looks like he should be playing State of Origin, and then I've seen other games where he's looked absolutely ineffective and he's been a bit of a turnstile in defence. So for me, it would agree with that. It would be a right centre. It would be that would be the option for me because I think that would fix those outside backs. And then, of course, the $1 million question literally is re-signing Buller to a long-term contract. And I know that there would be work going on in the background, and let's hope that they get that across the line whenever that happens. But it would be locking down him as well. But look, agree with what the Discord has said. Yeah, red zone, halves, outside backs. But for me, there's a fix to the outside backs is a right centre. Yeah, Katoni would be brilliant.
Yeah, for me personally, I think that a lot of this is just going to come from learning experiences. I think we've got the group. I think you could tinker with it a little bit, but from my perspective, I think that a May Macassini centre pairing long term is going to make a lot of sense. I think Tino Tamana is going to be a star. I think I'll go as far to say that he'll have the greatest highlights reel ever by the time he turns 35. A winger. And obviously, as you mentioned, Jareen, and look, there are going to be, young juniors, your Godnays, your Morses, your Oitmans of the world, stick around for that. That are going to come into this side. But for me, I look at a side like Cronulla, and while they've been a bit topsy-turvy this week, this year, and I hope that, they're hopeless next weekend. Realistically, they're a side that you've seen evolve every single year. They've gone from not being able to buy a semi-final win to, being able to play in prelims and test out grand finalists. Now, they obviously haven't taken, the next step into the big dance, but you've seen that side evolve through a lot of learnings that they've made. So for the Tigers, for me, I think it's, really building on those big game experiences. Easter Monday is one of those. I think the game against Penrith and Canterbury are going to be big games as well. Magic Round has a semi-final cauldron-style atmosphere. It's learning from those and looking at those games and understanding how to win those, those matches and deal with, that pressure and that noise and the inability to hear each other on the field. It's games like against the Brisbane Broncos where realistically you're going toe-to-toe with the premiers and, what can you take from that? What can you learn from that? But we are winning in different ways. We've won 4 games this year. They've all been a little bit different. Cowboys and Knights, they're probably the most similar. We were dominant from minute 1. The Warriors, we came from behind on one of the toughest away trips in the game and with the chocolates, the game against Parramatta, it was swings and roundabouts in terms of momentum when we managed to hold on. So, as long as they continue to win games in a variety of ways and take those strong learnings against hopefully, good sides, whether they be wins or losses, I think that you're going to see them evolve. Further, you look at, the way that Trindle and Hines have evolved over time and how they've gone about it, how you've seen these back rowers empowered to keep a guy like Britton Nickera out of the side. It's those sorts of things. It's, working on those games and analysing through video and stuff on field and trying to build that out. And obviously, again, the system will evolve with it. I think that we've played the same structures mostly for the last 3 years, but you watch what Penrith do almost with like these play action NFL style plays where they turn players under and Cleary's got his back turned. That's, it's those sorts of things that once the system back to front, that you can build that out. And I think that'll come similar to, obviously our inability to convert in the red zone at the moment. The one that, you go.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say, isn't it interesting too how, as a group of fans, our conversation has evolved? Because if we were having this conversation 6 months ago, the answer to that question would have been, we need another middle forward and we need a lock. And that hasn't even been mentioned. And if anybody mentioned that in the Discord, it would have been, I didn't see it anyway. And it just goes to show how much those forwards have improved and how great Twally is. Now, that doesn't mean that if Isaiah Yeo comes on the market and he says, I'm looking for a change and I've heard great things are happening under Benji, I want to come sign with the Tigers. Of course you're going to sign him. That doesn't mean that Twally's not doing a great job. But isn't it interesting how, as the team has evolved, the way that we've seen them has evolved as well?
Massively.
Very interesting conversation. It was a great topic to look at together.
Definitely. Yeah, it's awesome. Just on the signings discussion really quickly before I jump into something else. So CB, the former patron State of the Live comments section, he went bold and sort of said, Liam Martin is a guy that we sort of have to talk to. Nathan Cleary's already said that he will go to November 1, looking at partnering him with Jerome Luai at the scrum base again, to have a look, realistically just put ourselves in the market for him. Devon, spoke about, back row depth. So obviously not a Liam Martin, but, a guy like I just spoke about before, a Billy Burns, former West Tigers Sam McIntyre, even a guy like, sort of Kai O'Donnell. Mac came, obviously put it up on the socials this morning, but another one that, sort of is of interest, particularly around those backline spots, is a guy like Sione Katoa, who's been dropped from the Cronulla Sharks first grade side. So, yeah, there's options out there on the market. It's just working out. And I think the Tigers have been really patient. They communicated it from the outset that, they'll wait for the right players to come onto the market. And that's Shane Richardson's influence absolutely still shining through despite the fact that he's left the club. Okay, we've obviously spoken about, us as fans and what we see and what we feel and as you say, like the sort of the paradigm shifts of being a West Tigers fan in 2026, we are on the up and we're 4-2 and things look good. But a lot of the time, there can be a lot of red herrings and statistics don't necessarily back it up. But this year is one of the times where it genuinely does. Call him a friend of the show now, the Rugby League Eye Test. We now do collab posts on Instagram and whatnot. And please, I implore you to go and buy that great man a coffee because it is not his full-time job. And some of the analysis that he has is second to none. But here are some key stats just to really put into perspective how we've improved. So NRL scoring is up 10% league-wide this year, but the Tigers have sort of bucked that trend. So points conceded is actually down 11% to 18.8 per game, and we have the second best defense in the comp. We are the only we are the only team yet to give up a try from the opposition's own half, which speaks to how well we are muscling up and scrambling if need be when we've got teams pinned down in their own end. 62.6% of the opponents' play the balls come from their half, so that's second in the NRL. So we're winning the field position battle again, turning the screws via our forward pack, and in a lot of ways that's, giving flowers to our halves who are putting the ball where it needs to go. But again, line speed contact wrestle really important there. That's the second best in the NRL and the best that we've managed in 12 years, probably since ITEST started looking over these things. And we're leading the comp in offloads, and that's not a surprise when you adjust for possession. So we've got 15.2 offloads per 150 play the balls, and 88% of them are deemed effective. So I'm going to assume that that's 1 meter plus above the advantage line. So, and nearly half of those offloads are coming inside the red zone. So while it does look a little bit, scattergun or a little bit disorganized, we are creating second phase, and that's giving us opportunities in that red zone. And I've got no doubt as the season wears on that will, allow us to score plenty of points off the back of it. All right, I think it's time that we kick into this preview. Thursday night game, 5-day turnaround for the boys, which is something we will touch on in a little bit. 7:50 at the eighth wonder of the world, Leichhardt Oval. We will be playing the 2026 minor premiers, the Canberra Raiders. We're currently sitting 13th and are somehow $2.52 outsiders. The team news, well, we spoke about him earlier. Hiamasi Makasini is being rested due to injury. Luke Lalii will come straight back in after a one-match suspension and then being on the extended bench onto the left sting there, partnering with Taylor May for the first time on that edge. Stafford Toa, the Prince of Leichhardt, hasn't lost in his last 4 games at Leichhardt Oval, 6 if you include the trials. He comes in at right centre. Very interestingly, I believe that he actually left Campbelltown Stadium in a mood boot after New South Wales Cup played against the Knights that night, but nonetheless, he's back. So that's good to see. Jock Madden remains on the bench, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Patrick Herbert and Tristan Hope are jerseys 18 and 19. The big one, Latu Fainu, is in jersey 20. He will be playing reserve grade, I assume, pending any late changes. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The Canberra Raiders, some late drama, I suppose you would call it. Hudson Young's been suspended. Josh Papali has I believe, a 6-week suspension. News broke this morning of the fact that Simi Sasangi, who has been probably their best player alongside Hudson Young, will be out with a one-match hamstring strain. As we record, he has not yet dropped out of this side, but given that Dane Laurie was named to debut, I would assume that he will come in there somewhere. But nonetheless, this is a team that is a problem, particularly off a win at home. They've got 6 days to turn it around as opposed to us with 5. This is going to be a really intriguing clash. Dad, how do you see this one?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, look, similar to the depleted Broncos. It's a danger game for us. We need to stick to our systems. We need to stick to what's worked. We need to smarten up those options and creating and taking those moments. We've already talked about that. But Canberra, one of those teams, they have had the wood on us recently, and there's been some atrocious score lines at Leichhardt in terms of past history with what the Raiders have done to us. I'm happy with our team. I know that that Luke on the wing there has got some mistakes in him. I get that, but his yardage coming out of our own line, and Canberra are very good when they are defending a team coming off their line. I think his yardage will be critical, and he has a go and he has a crack and he sticks the ball under his arm and he makes good yards. I think that our back. Oh, look, our back 5, particularly our back 3, our wingers have got a great role to play there. I think that's really important. I think, look, we'll get to tips later. I do think the Tigers will win. I think that a lot of them were hurting after that game at Campbelltown. They knew that game was there for the taking, and I think that they will want to come out and make sure that doesn't happen again. I think that the centre being out for the Raiders, you said his name. I'm sorry, from this morning. Thank you. I think he's a big out for the Raiders because he has been in exceptional form. And I think that, that our defence will be good enough to hold the Raiders. They can loot points as well. We've seen that. And if we build on that outstanding foundation that our forwards set for us, we've got the ability to put some points on them, and that's how I'm seeing and hoping this game goes on Thursday night.
Yeah, the stats that you call out there, there's a few that I want to make note of. The Tigers, as I mentioned earlier, as per the eye test, have not conceded a try from the opposition's half. Canberra have allowed 7 tries from when a team is working the ball out from their own end. So if there's a blueprint, it's spread it early and offload and look for second phase because, they're a little bit shaky there. I look at, obviously, their combos are going to be a little bit different, particularly with Hudson out and now Sasangi, and Tomoko's only been back for a week. So, lack of cohesion is going to be something that we're going to need to take care of. And there are points around guys like Tomoko and Jed Stewart and Tamale or Dane Laurie if he comes into the side. Noah Martin, I think, has had a phenomenal year, but he is still young. You park, someone on his inside and outside shoulder and he's going to struggle. I think this is going to be a really tough one through the middle. I'm really interested to see how our forward pack takes to it. But if there is a positive, it's the fact that Sione and Royce Hunt only played minimal minutes on the weekend, meaning that they'll be fresher than what you would expect coming off a 5-day turnaround. One thing that I really want to sort of call out is the makeup of the bench. So Latu dropping out of the extended bench. I think that Benji's played his hand here a little bit. And I want to get your thoughts on this. I think by sending Latu to play reserve grade, I think that indicates to me that Jock's going to get some minutes and AD will be required to be that guy, to be that pivot through the middle that's going to create space for guys on the outside. I think that Latu's probably going to go down there for an extended period pending any injuries in Cup. I think because he's probably being groomed. And I think that they're looking at contingencies and ways to improve the squad. And this could be one of them. I'm not saying it will happen, but maybe they're just assessing their options and having a bit of look. So, for the people out there that, have been thinking and obviously seeing that, maybe AD is not that guy at 7 and maybe he's better suited at, right centre like he was in the last 15 against the Broncos or at 13, like I fully expect him to get some reps at on Thursday. It's a really, really interesting one. Do you sort of see it similarly? Do you think AD is going to play a bit of 13 given the makeup of the bench?
Yeah, I do. Look, who knows where he's going to pop up, given the bench. Look, it could be at centre, it could be at 13. I jokingly sent you a text message during the week. We were worried about Jareem's shoulder at Campbelltown there and said, maybe they're going to play him at fullback, which is... He played for fullback for South. Certainly give him that opportunity to run wide and pop up wherever he wanted to. I sort of can't see that happening, but it was an interesting thread to pull there, wasn't it? So yeah, look, I do see Jock coming on at some stage and possibly some extended time there. I also think too, just on Latu, I think part of the reason why I agree with everything you've said, but the other thing too the part of the reason why I think that they've dropped Latu down to Reggie's is because he needs some mileage in his legs. He's been spending a lot of time sitting on our bench, getting 15 minutes here or 20 minutes there, and we've built our game on fitness, and we need match fitness for all of our players. And I think that part of it too is to just give this guy that match fitness to get those mileage. Get that mileage back into his legs. And that's not a bad thing either. And I'm sure that Benji handled that conversation with him exceptionally well. I did hear around the traps that Appy was having a bit of a limp around at training at one stage there, and that worried me a little bit. I heard that earlier today.
Yeah.
I hope that's not why Tristan Hope's, being carried there. And no offense to Tristan, but he's not Appy. Appy's he's our main man when it comes to dummy half play. Or whether if they are still, that Patrick Herbert is still sitting on that where he's sitting there at number 18. If there are any late changes, including if Buller's trained there to play, but if he's a late withdrawal, who will obviously, come into that back line, or he would come into that picture somewhere, particularly if Taruva ended up at fullback, which was, Benji had showed that last year that was an option for him. So, look, that's sort of my thoughts on the individuals on the bench. Talking about the bench as a whole, I would rather have the Tigers bench than the Raiders bench any day. I think that ours has got power, it's got options, it's got agility. It has got forwards in Sione and Big Royce, and even Alex, who has been excellent in the time that he's played this year. it has got the potential to not only maintain momentum, but to go up a gear. And it comes back to that fitness and that ability to come on and to keep that momentum rolling. And so we've talked about those individuals, but the bench as a whole is something that is a real strength of ours. We're getting great momentum continuance, and we're also getting impact off the bench as well as some ability to cover different positions there, depending on what happens during the game and if there's any late withdrawals.
Yeah, massively. In terms of, weaknesses across both sides that are worth pointing out, the Raiders have got a really young side. I think a guy like Ethan Strange would really, take it in his stride and will use the atmosphere to perform. But a guy like Ethan
Mm.
Sanders, we've seen many a great halfback swallowed whole by the Leichhardt factor.
Yeah.
Whether it be the likes of Jonathan Thurston and Ben Hunt and Nico Hines and the rest. I'm really, really keen to see how we put pressure on Ethan. I believe he's on the left-hand side, so that'll be Kai Pearce-Paul. I think there's points, to be scored around there. Team update says that Savelio Tamale will be in. I assume he will play on the wing. He's been named at centre. He's a kick target for sure. Jed Stewart is definitely going to try and give Luke Lauliti a bath in the air, but he's another one that is can make an error. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how we go about this and whether or not the game plan differs a little bit. I think that, realistically, our edges are where we can win this game. It just comes down to whether or not we can execute and we can make those right decisions that we've spoken about for a long time. In terms of where, our weaknesses are, Luke Lauliti, his yardage game is elite. You called it out earlier. I'm really keen to see him return off the back of that suspension and remaining on the extended bench. It's obviously, again, just that Jed Stewart factor and being weary of that. The big question mark around our halves and how we deal with it. And obviously, again, that 5-day turnaround. How are our boys going to hold up and how they're going to deal with it? And, guys like Uppy and Jareem and Sam Weller and these guys carrying niggles, how they deal with it with, 1 or 2 less sleeps. But it brings us to the end in terms of, previewing this match. As the week's gone on, this has felt more and more like the Newcastle game. I was a little bit nervous to begin the week, and as time's gone on, I think I've grown in confidence a little bit. And as you say, I think they'll be burning after that loss. I think that really would have hurt them. And, we're lucky in a lot of ways that Canberra coming off a win. There's a little bit less desperation, although, they certainly want to string wins together to get their year back on track. I can see us running away with this in the last 12, the last 15 I think it'll be a bit of a grind beforehand. Let's say 28-10 to the Tigers. And I'm going to say man of the match, Jahream Buller.
Yeah, sure. I've got a similar margin. Look, I do think we'll win. I think you've mentioned the short turnaround. It's an interesting one. I think physically it'll be tough, but I think emotionally, mentally, I think it actually suits us because the boys will want to get back on ASAP to make amends for that game that got away against the Broncos. So it's an interesting one there. I think our forwards will lead the way. I think we will maintain our great kick chase, the pressure. You've identified it. Canberra can leak points on the edge, and you have a look at our edge, particularly that comes off the back of Sam Finu and KPP. I think there's a great opportunity there for us to exploit it. I think Canberra will miss their players who are out. They've got 3 key players in 3 key positions who are out. I think that will hurt them. I think that mistakes will be made. I think it's the Leichhardt stuff. As I said, a similar margin to you. I've got the Tigers 34-14, and I would love us to see us pile on some points to begin with because there is nothing nicer as a Tigers fan than to actually win where there's no pressure going into the last 10 minutes like we had against the Cowboys and also the Newcastle Knights as well. But really looking forward to it.
Me too. We are into pathways, and there's not much to report at all. Cup and Fleck both had buys this week. Both teams up against the Canberra Raiders in their respective fixtures, both on Saturday at Lidcombe Oval. Mainly just around team news. So Jarrell Skeldon comes into that reserve grade side. Latu Fainu will be named in Jersey 7. Jersey 4 we originally thought was going to be Kiamasi Magasini, but obviously he's got bone bruising on his foot. Don't assume it will be him. I'll be interested to see who that might be. It might be Siole Fainga'a. I hope I haven't messed that up. He's come in the last couple of weeks and done well. And jersey 9, I'm really interested in. They might just leave that blank in the hopes that Tristan and Patrick Herbert aren't used. Lachlan Broadalow's back, which is a win for sure. Keen to see how he goes. And in Jersey Flegg, they're playing a fairly strong Canberra side as well. We're really, really interested to see how that one goes. The only team that did play was the girls in the Lisa Fiaola Cup, who unfortunately their season has concluded after a loss to the Central Coast Roosters. But take nothing away from Olivia Large, who I think is related to Antonia Ashton, who are now at Manly. She scored a brilliant solo try. Go and have a look at it. She's in the 13 jersey, scored down the right wing, right edge, sorry, and beat about 4 players to get over. Unfortunately, not to beat for the girls, but great to see them in the postseason like they deserve to be. And hopefully they've taken a lot out of, in a lot of ways, was a really successful season. Dad, thank you for being with us.
No problem. I've had a great time. Look, filling in for Mac. I'm sure a lot of your viewers and listeners will be keen to have him back, but I don't mind coming off the reserve bench. I don't mind being number 18 or 19, coming off and filling in where needed.
Well, very much appreciated, because it would have been me flying solo and me screaming down the echo chamber like I do on social media. So I appreciate it. I will be on the hill tomorrow night. My fiance always gets more raps than me because she's wearing a Magpies jersey, and everybody goes, "Oh, look at this girl wearing a retro jersey." But I'll be there. I'll try and get to the OG beforehand for a beer. But if you see me, come say hi. Fingers crossed on a win. Good luck to all West Tigers affiliated sides this week. Thank you very much. We will conclude this episode with an interview that we recorded a little bit earlier. Mac is back for this final stanza of this episode. We interview West Tigers Pathways star Riley Oitmann, who was our Pathways Player of the Week last week, who managed to score a hat trick on his Flegg debut. We'll leave you with that now, and we'll speak to you soon. Joining us now to conclude this sensational episode is a man that is Southwest Sydney, and as a result, West Tigers through and through. He's come all the way through the system. He was a Macarthur Saints junior to begin with. Then he ended up at the Canberra Rams. And just last week, whatever you want to call it, last fixture, let's put it that way, he scored a hat trick on his Jersey Flegg debut. He had a phenomenal SG ball campaign in a tough year for the Magpies last year. It is none other than Riley Oitmann. Riley, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Yourself?
Mate, really good. Really good. Thank you for joining us and all that sort of stuff. Mate, tell us about yourself. Where'd you grow up, and how did you find yourself in the Tigers pathway?
Yeah, as you said, born and raised Campbelltown. Grew up here my whole life. I am a Macarthur Saints junior. Was there from 6s to 12s. Then made the move from 13s and 14s over to Campbelltown Collegians. And then I found home at Camden Rams. Was lucky enough as well, since I've been 13 years old, I was able to join the West Tigers Pathways. So I've been with West Tigers since I was 13 years old. Funny enough, my first ever coach was Shannon Glant.
Wow.
Yeah, head of recruitment at the moment. He's yeah. I remember pulling up the trainer next to him, and he was getting out of the car next to me in his tradie uniform. So
You're taller than him at that point?
I'd like to say so. Bigger as well.
Yeah, we could probably bet each more than him too. Mate, so obviously 13s through sort of 15s is development squads. You would have been part of those early sort of Andrew Johns Cup sides, would you not?
Yes, I was.
So, mate, talk me through the process, because obviously you're a New South Wales under 15s representative, which is an incredible accolade and fitting of, your talents. Talk me through the selection process there and what you boys did in camp, and did you just play Queensland? Run me through how that sort of worked.
Well, yeah, when I was 15, turning 16, I was lucky enough to go alongside and join that Junior Blues squad. We went into a camp. We didn't end up playing a game. I think that was around that COVID time. It was unbelievable. You were alongside some of the greats. Brad Fittler was the coach of that camp. We were alongside with many boys that have made their NRL debut by now. We went into camp for 24 hours at Sydney Olympic Park at the headquarters. They just took us in. We had players like Boyd Cordner there, just teaching us through and running us over what it's like to be a professional athlete. Great experience. I look back at it still to this day, made lifetime friendships. Good mates with young Zane Harrison up in the Titans. We actually built a pretty good friendship from that. Still talk pretty frequently. Hopefully he gets to run in the NRL soon. Be good to watch him play. But yeah, great experience.
Amazing, mate. Max, here, say hi, mate. I can ask a question.
Zane's probably not too far off. He's been, I think, on the extended bench at the Titans a couple of times already this year, so he must be pretty close. So you made your flag debut just a couple of weeks ago. Where have you been this year so far? Did you have a bit of a injury or something like that, or did you just had to play yourself into the jersey? Or talk us through how your year's been so far.
Yeah, so year's been good. Started preseason obviously last November. I got told last year probably got to come back a bit bigger, a little stronger. So in the off season, I put on 7 kilos. Yeah, which was a big. It was a lot of weight to carry for me, going from 68 to 75.
Pretty
I
bold.
felt, yeah, or could say that.
Get
Yeah,
an El Jana.
How dirty was the bulk? Was
Yeah.
it like, was
Yeah.
it just stuff your face with anything you could find?
anything I can eat. It was good most of 70% of the time. But if I'm out with my mates having to feed them, just eating anything and everything till I'm throwing up. Really.
What was an absolutely feral thing that you found yourself eating more often than not to put on the kilos?
Don't you don't have,
I don't know if I think any food's feral.
you don't have to answer that either, because you get in trouble with the team if they hear that sort of crap.
Nah, no way. They would have wanted you to put on kilos however you could, wouldn't they?
He's been eating like liposuction out of the bag. That's that's what I've been told.
Yeah, you go, mate.
Yeah, continue. So after you did your bulk, you got your weight up.
Oh, that's yeah. So anyway, come back heavier, but then it ended up working out for me. I'm the fittest I've been this year. I'm the strongest I've been. I'm the heaviest I've been. We've got a good squad, good coach at Flegg as well. With Shane Sultana. He's definitely looking after me. We had a couple conversations earlier on in the year, and obviously with Brooksy there, I'm Logan. Obviously coming off an NRL trial, great season as well. I think it was just right that he was there at 1 to start the season, and I was there shadowing him a bit, and just really learning everything and anything I possibly can at the start of the season, soaking it all up. And he came to me like the week of our thingy and said he's going to chuck me on the wing this week, and it was really just one of them things that's anything for the team. Like, next man up mentality. That's kind of what he's been trying to implement into our team, is that next man up mentality. If you can't trust it, then he can't play you. So
you keep rapping him, by the way, because I'm trying to hassle him to come onto the potty. So the more content we put out rapping Shane Sultana, the more likely he is to say yes. So good on you. Keep rapping him as much as you can. Do you see yourself? So you mentioned being on the wings one for the team. So you don't really see yourself as a winger. Like, that's not really your thing, or?
Look, anywhere in the outside backs for me. Preferably I like fullback. It's where I played last year. I think that's where you get the best out of me. But when you got players like Adard and Brooksy in front of you, you kind of got to bite your time. So that's rugby league, and like I said, that means I'm on the wing for this season and next, and that's what it is. Whatever the team needs, I'm there to do.
Mate, but you've also let's not forget last year SG Ball, Ali started in the 1 and
Yeah, I
you
was
were
gonna
on
say.
the wing, and then you made that jump of your own. Obviously, I know Ali got injured, but realistically what you managed to do that season, like for us, like I don't know whether or not you felt like you always had it in you, but from our perspective, we felt like you turned a corner and very much announced yourself. How do you review that season and how do you sum it up? It was a tough year for you boys, but I think individually you're amazing. Like, how do you look back on that time?
Yeah, I look back at that. That's probably one of my best years of football last year. And I reckon that all came down to my coach in Nathan Lakeman. He pushed me to death that preseason. He got every single last inch out of me that he possibly could. And he showed me what a preseason was like to be prepared for a good season. And that round 1, I trained preseason or fullback, and he said to me, with Ali there, he said, you'll be on the wing in the first game. So, it was the first time it's ever happened to me. So it was a bit of a take back, but I'd done it. And after that, I played 2 games in fullback, and I didn't play the best footy. So then he dropped me. I got sat out for the week, and then he came to me against the Steelers. It was the Steelers we had that week, and he came to me and he said, he goes, look, you're 19th man this week, but he's like, you'll compete for a spot at training. And I think that was real eye-opening for me. It was that moment then I was like, yeah, right. So the training was good. He ended up putting me in the centres. I was playing my first ever game in the centres. And he then Junior, do you remember Junior, the fullback from last year?
Fungalele?
Yeah. Junior fell down with a hamstring 30 seconds into the game.
You're kidding.
That was my moment. Got moved straight to fullback. Went on that game with, I think it was 2 try assists and 3 tries. And ever since there, it was uphill for me last year. Yeah, it was big thanks to Nathan Lakeman. He squeezed every single little inch out of me last preseason. So no matter what situation I come up against, I was ready to go.
It's amazing, mate.
So, you mentioned you're 75 at the moment. Is that right? 75 kg. So on the wing, that's pretty light for a winger, even in the flag grade, isn't it? So did you find the contact in your debut in flag to be, especially coming out of your own end? Like, how did you feel after the game? Were you a bit battered and bruised, or was it fine?
Definitely the most sore I've been after a game of footy. 21-year-olds, yeah, they're big boys. Especially Newcastle, they were very big boys. But no, the contact's fine. I think you'll find flag. Everyone's always said to me, flag's the fastest game of rugby league, like faster than NRL, faster than Cup.
Yeah, wow.
I've never played a game until the weekend. I actually realised that flag is a fast game. It's hard to control the ruck, if you know what I mean. Like it's hard to slow play the ball down in Jersey flag, and I learnt that on the weekend. But it was a good hit out. It was good to play the first game and get that done with, and now ready to go this weekend against the Raiders. So
amazing, mate. So we spoke to Logan, and he's massive on his kick returns and his communication and his ability to sort of beat a man one-on-one. Where do you see your strengths as a footballer?
on the wing or in fullback?
Either, mate.
Either. I'm probably the same. For me, I think it all starts at training. Every training session, you're always preparing for your next game. So I like to be the kid that brings the NO. I'm a big believer in if the team's connected, then we're in for a good week. So I like to bring the NO to training. And when it comes to the game, I like to be big on my communication and kick returns as well. Kick returns are so important for us outside backs because every single metre that we can squeeze out of that kick return, that's less running our middle's got to do to get back. So for me, it's the same thing. Kick returns are so big for any fullback and winger.
And so you're obviously behind Logan at the moment in that flag side, but Jack Attard, he obviously is in the NRL squad, and I think that there's probably a pretty good chance of Jack potentially getting some run in the top grade later in the year, and Logan maybe even getting a bit of time in New South Wales Cup. Have you had those sort of conversations with Shane Sultana? Like, is there a bit of a plan there for you to maybe get some more run later in the year, or is it just going to be a bit play it by ear?
Yeah, it's a bit of playing by the ear at the moment. I think there's a lot of talk with, Adard and NRL and all that, and Brooksy obviously with Cup full time as well. So, look, Shane just said to me, Sultana said to me, it was a couple of weeks ago, he said he just wants to get some minutes under my belt in flag at the moment. He just wants to get me, playing some games, playing some minutes and getting used to it. And it's really just playing by ear. It's just, whatever the team needs that week, I think that's what he'll do.
So with Logan training mostly with Cup, like you're pretty much like the full-time fullback in the flag squad training with the boys most of the time, yeah?
Yes and no. We've got a couple fullbacks there.
Sonny probably also trains at fullback a bit too, doesn't he?
Yeah, Sonny will get. He used to get some reps there. He's obviously now at 5'8", so mainly his reps will be coming. And it's just a lot of filling in. Flag's a lot of if Cup needs players, then
you got to go up.
You got to go up, and then that leaves us with a couple younger boys that are just up training, and so just it's really playing it by the ear. And whoever we get at training, has got to make do of it. So.
There's a lot of talk that you're the fastest guy at the club. Any truth to this? Like, how fast are you?
Don't know. Never, ever have I
had a race?
Never. Look, I'd back myself. But
you back yourself? Yeah.
I'd definitely back myself.
Did you do little athletics and stuff like that?
Never.
All footy fast?
I've done a little bit of sprint training this season.
Okay.
This pre-season with Hayley Butler.
Okay.
Can't beat speed.
Yeah.
yeah, done a little bit of off-season training with her this year and just little bits of improvement and technique. But other than that, yeah, speed's really my asset. Not the biggest fella, but I definitely back myself to be the fastest on the field every week. That's for sure.
But you would generate a lot of power from that speed, right? Like realistically,
Oh yeah.
how do you rate your yardage game? Like from what I've seen, like I mean, I watched your debut. Like you were pretty solid with your carries.
Yeah. Look, yardage probably isn't the strongest thing, but I'll definitely give it a red hot crack. But yeah, when you have players in your team like Joseph Parch and Xavier on the other side as well, I think you'll find that they had 19 to 20 carries that game in my debut. So when you got boys like that taking the hard yards for you, and I'll just sit wide and finish off the tries and look pretty. I think that's kind of my role in rugby league. Yeah, just finishing off them tries. I think that's what I hold myself to. It's what we were missing before, so that's my role in the team. I think so. Yeah,
Love it. Who do you love playing with out of this group?
tough question. There's a couple of boys.
Go to war for Archie Duncan, wouldn't you?
Oh, you would. That kid, he's producing roughly around 60 minutes a week, and his carries. Oh, that kid is he's something else at the moment. This is the best he's ever come back.
Yeah.
I was speaking to him yesterday actually at training. We're in the gym and he was tipping me up on a little bit of, I just asked him, I'm like, you're not nervous going in every week, I'm like, what if we don't play the next week? And he's like, yeah, he's just said, you just got to play it week to week. He's like, you got to stop thinking ahead and worry about what's coming next. He's like, just play it week to week, Riley. And he's like, you'll be fine. And he's like, just do your thing for the team. And he's like, you done it in your first week, so I'm sure you'll be able to do it this week as well. So Archie, yeah, is definitely one person I love playing with that bloke. I don't think I'd want any other front rower at the moment.
Did you know that we had him on the potty? Like last year, we've actually had an interview with Archie. He's a bit of an old soul, eh? Like
He's a real country boy.
Yeah.
Real country boy.
Yeah. No, it's good to hear that he's playing that role around the boys too.
He is real leader. Archie is. Archie's a real leader. He's obviously not named captain of our squad, but definitely, he's like, his appearance when he's around. He's a real leader of that squad, and I think he's going to be a big key to our success moving forward this year. Archie will be. So yeah, definitely one to watch would be Archie this year. He's in for a good season.
What are your goals for the year and where would you like to end? And then going into the summer next year, like, is there a hope to sort of do the cup preseason or maybe get some reps with first grade through the summer? What are your hopes?
Oh yeah, look, I think my goal this year is just to play consistent flag. I've definitely set a goal for us boys to definitely, and it's a big goal, but I reckon we hold that trophy at the end of this year.
Yes, I agree.
We've got the team to do it, and and we've got the players around, we've got the coach and staff to do it. I think you look at what first grade's doing, all the way down the cup, down to us boys at flag, and I hold high expectations this year. Though I've said to the boys in preseason, I said I reckon we hold that trophy up this year. We've got the team to do it, and I reckon we win it. So that's definitely one thing that's always floating on my mind. But other than that, yeah, I think it's every kid's dream to make their NRL debut, right? So any step closer you can get to that would be good. But for myself, just playing consistent flag for me this year. I'm still only 19 years old. Still got 2 more years left to flag. Well, this year and next year, sorry. And yeah, if opportunity presents to go up and, even if it's a week or two with NRL, I'd take that as fast as I could. But if that means training with Cup or that means I'm another year at flag, they've kind of made it pretty obvious that they don't want to, rush me into anything. They want to progress and train me up,
But by the same token, they've given you actually have a fairly long-term deal with the Tigers, don't you? I remember last year reading something about you getting a 3-year contract or something like that.
I extended 2-year contract at the end of last year.
So as in this year, next year, and the year after, or this year, next year?
This year, next year.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that gives you plenty of time, right? So yeah, so you'd be like holding out hope that maybe, by the end of next year you might be, in line for a development contract with the NRL or something like that. Seem like a realistic timeline for you?
Oh, well, that's it. I've always made it obvious, and I've always said to everyone I've always wanted to be. There'd been nothing more special than me to make my debut for the West Tigers. As I said to you, I've been with the club since I was 13. I'm now in my seventh year with the club now. I think I'm always in Shannon's ear telling him when he upgraded me, Shannon, when he upgraded me.
Hey, it must be good he was your under-13s coach, right?
Yeah, it is. Me and Shannon have a good relationship with us too. Yeah, it's good. It's yeah. I'd be nothing better to be a one club person. Yeah.
Are there any other guys in and around the squad, whether it's in flag or even who might have progressed further, that you've been playing with from a young age?
Since Luke Loliti.
Okay.
I remember my first 13s development session. I was in the same team as Luke.
Hey, there you go.
And he used to play up an age with Kit.
Yeah, he always
played. Yeah. So I showed up to training and I'm like, who is this kid? Like he's not 13, right? And I was anyway. And then
He's Islander 13, bro.
yes. Yeah. Luke, I've played with him since all development since 13. He used to be my roomie every time we went away. It was always me and Luke. So
That's mad.
yeah. It was mad, man. I remember he messaged me the morning of his debut and said, he's making his NRL debut and if we can get down to Campbelltown, be there. And it was on the same day as our what's it called? What do you call it at the end? The presentation day.
Oh.
So he played SG ball that season and he made his NRL debut on presentation day. So
Oh, that's sick.
he had one of them. He had one of them.
Little,
he had one. Everyone was there because they gave us tickets to go in after, and everyone's there and watching. He had one of them little aura moments up on the thingy when they go, young Luke Lilly, 18 years old, making his NRL debut today. He's meant to be here getting rewards, but he's over there making his NRL debut.
That's fine.
So it's just
aura farming from a distance is something that is just.
It's even better. It's even better when you're not there, right?
That's right. It's reserved for one of the greats. We asked Logan about this, what he listens to pre-game, and he said everything from Taylor Swift to DM, which we really respect. But what's in your ears pre-game?
Yeah, I'm definitely different. My pre-game music's more. I like more Adele.
Oh yes,
That's not that different.
Yeah, look,
yes.
I'm the same. I'm more what you classify your depressing music, like people's depressing music. That's what's in my ear pre-game. I don't like that doof stuff pumping off my head in my ears.
I love it. So like my hometown and
yeah.
What else we listen to? Rolling in the Deep's a good pump.
Rolling in the Deep is good.
She's back. She's back. She's releasing. She's releasing an album soon. You're pumped for the new Adele album. What are we talking about here, guys? We're talking about the new Adele album. Let's ask a different question. You mentioned before you obviously been with the Tigers since 13 and stuff like that. Born in Campbelltown. Safe to say, surely you grew up a Tigers fan. You're not one of those Cambo kids that grew up a Doggies fan or something like that.
Mate, I've since birth, I've been raised as a Dragon supporter.
Oh wow, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Dragon supporter, but always had that soft spot for the Tigers.
Always. Is Daniel Anderson giving you a call yet?
Hey,
is Daniel Anderson giving you a call yet?
Okay. So grew up a Dragons fan. Interesting. So yeah, what players did you sort of idolize growing up as a Dragons fan? They've had some. You would have been like a kid during some of their best years, like in that 2010 premiership year and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really grow up idolizing any Dragons players because that when I started understanding footy, I was about 8 years old, and that's when it was all downhill, right? But growing up, Billy Slater, he's just my idol. Like he's just the way he played footy. I still watch his highlights to this day. He's just unreal.
What about actually? I've just made this connection. So Teddy obviously played for Camden. You played for Camden. Was there always were you always sort of inspired by his journey? Going like, I know obviously he went on and played for the Chooks, and I'll always curse him for that. But was it all you look at him and go far out? Like I'm walking the exact same pathway.
Yeah, 100%. That's the dream. Like they say players are role models for a reason, and I think he's the walking image of it. We've even got an award named after him.
Yeah.
The James Tedesco Award
at Camden.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was going to be like at the Tigers jersey.
No. Then
yes.
So,
the Chooks.
Lockie Dinner was a walking image of anyone's just I reckon it's so cool. The fact pub and have a pub named after him for a night while he takes the Blues squad there is just something anyone's.
I saw him at Bar Ends back when it was off its nut, and I told him to promise me that that he wasn't going to the Chooks before he'd announced anything. He said, "No, I'm not going." 3 weeks
Oh,
later,
did he?
yeah. Did your brothers ever tell you about Bahrain Sundays?
No, but you know what? I was a bit too young for that. But my brother always used to tell me that he went to Bahrain's last night, and now that I'm old enough to go out, I'm like, Bahrain's, mate. I'm like, that looks like a bit of a place you go for a bit of dinner, and then the place shuts at 9:00. So
Oh, it's changed considerably, but good for a strawberry duck, I reckon. If that's your poison, Mac. I've got nothing else. You want to ask one more, and then we'll all get out of here.
You mentioned before we went on the air that you see your dream job is a YouTuber. Well, congratulations, you're officially a YouTuber.
yeah, well, look, I sit there and I watch what's his name, Terrell.
Oh, Mayday podcast.
Yeah, I watch Mayday's podcast. I watch all of his stuff. I love it. It just gives you a little insight of what NRL's
How
really like.
good are the questions that him and Taylor do? And it's like just these general knowledge questions about name like a US state that starts with V.
Yeah, they're great. You should start getting some
Yeah.
some podcasts together like that.
All right,
Yeah.
no, let's do it. I'll do it right now. Name a US state that starts and ends with the letter A.
US state that starts
Starts
Wait,
and
which one?
ends with the letter A.
starts and ends with the letter A. A US state. Arizona.
Hey,
Right in time. Look at that. All right, we got a high IQ guy here. Oh, that's good. That's good content for YouTube right there. That's how you do it. Like, just for some tips in case you ever make a podcast, Riley. You know, you got to like frame up your clips. So another one I'll ask you about is, what's your opinion on the current Iran conflict? Just kidding. You don't have to answer that. You can keep that one to yourself.
I wouldn't even know how to answer that.
What about the
I
oil
would-
crisis right now, or the rise of one nation? Have you got an opinion on that? Just kidding, Riley. I'm just kidding. We're off the reservation here, mate. It's been awesome to have you. So happy to have you on. And if you ever want to practice YouTubing, you let us know. You can come on anytime. You can give us, the flag report later in the year, and we'll do it all over again. No, legitimately, like we'd love to have you back. Because we talk about pathways all the time. We go we go into heaps of detail about that. But thanks so much for coming on. It's been great.
No worries. Thanks for having me, boys. Yeah, anytime, halfway through the season and all the way to the end, if you ever want an update, just flick me a message, and more than happy to join you. And it's been good.
Awesome.
No, we haven't scared you away, mate. You take care. Good luck on the weekend.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
You
Cheers,
too, mate.
mate.
We're only strangers.